this change that we see in men and like, the archetype of the man. I think that we have gotten away from that like warrior mindset as men. Um, we don't have to hunt. We don't have to protect from invaders. We don't have to do a lot of these things that, um, you know, the civilization kind of takes care of now for us. The civilized man is not really so much warrior inclined, but that is really what the yoga is designed for, because you have to, as a warrior, you have to make peace with life and death. And you can't, there's no time for doubt on the battlefield. And yet that's exactly what Arjuna faces. Arjuna faces a monstrous moment of doubt. And even though he knows that he can do what he's there to do as like the greatest archer on the planet, and he was supposed to be the inheritor of the planetary kingdom. Like he's like, I don't even know if I can do this right now. I don't know if I can kill my family and kill all my friends. Because then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and ultimately I'm supposed to be setting an example. And so inside of that story, men get all of these little nuggets and these little hints. Like you want to have a warrior mindset. And with a warrior mindset, you want to make peace with death.
What's happening, fellas? Welcome back, and thank you for listening to the Guys Talking Yoga podcast. Larry Milburn here, your co-host. Derek will be coming up, joining me on this fantastic episode that we have for you today. We've got Josh Kane, yoga teacher, yoga practitioner, Bhakti Yoga devotee from New Haven, Connecticut. This was a great interview, man, as they all are, we have to say, but this was a lot of fun. Josh is a great guy, very passionate about yoga, and I think helps frame a lot of things for us fellow men in a way to understand and appreciate yoga, and some particular stories about yoga as a good entry point into what yoga is all about and why we as men would really benefit from this practice. So real quick, Josh was affected deeply by a workshop that he was helping to assist years ago at the Esalen Institute in Northern California. Totally changed his life. And upon returning to Connecticut, he started teaching and jumping right into Bhakti Yoga, which again is a very deep, personal and devotional practice. So I got to silence that. Anyway, so we're very excited to have you here. I want to jump into the episode because it's a great one filled with lots of good nuggets, like I said. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode and to all the others. And you can always help us by sharing the episodes, sharing some of the awesome, little quotes that we have and things, any inspiration that you can help pass along to other men to get them into the practice of yoga, we greatly appreciate. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials over here at YouTube. If you're watching, if you're just listening, that's cool too. Head over to the YouTube channel to find some other great content. We've got a lot of great resources up on the website at gtypodcast.com. We hope you will take advantage of them, and we hope to see you soon on the mat. So here we go with Mr. Josh Kane of Gandiva Yoga. Welcome to the show, and great to have you on, man.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, how did you get into yoga? Where did it start for you?
Yoga started around 2002. So I used to be an actor growing up, and I've also been a musician my whole life. And so when I was in my second year of college, one of my close friends, girlfriend at the time, was a talent agent, and an audition for the Blue Man Group came across her desk. And so I was like, this is it. I mean, this is the combination of both. I get to act and drum and it's a Broadway gig. So it's a huge gig. And so I went in for the first audition, and, kind of how I was back in the day was like, I was always hoping for that, the thing that was going to be it. Like, I got this, I made it. I don't have to audition anymore. I don't have to like beg for work anymore. Like this is going to be the thing. And the audition was held in a teeny tiny little office with 3 people. And I had to stand completely still, and there was no talking and there was no moving for an hour. And by the end, they said, you know what, you actually did really good, but you have a little bit of a problem focusing. So we're gonna send you to learn how to do yoga and meditate, and then we'll have you back in like 6 months and you can try again. And so I did that, and I that's kind of like with my mom. I went to my first yoga class with my mom, and it's called Svarupa Yoga with a woman named Ann Katz, and it was a whole other experience. I remember walking out of there, and I was walking. I was like, I'm walking right now. Like this is me walking. Like I'd never really experienced the world or myself in that way, where I was actually like aware of what was happening, and that was it. I was hooked.
Where
So
did you grow up? Where did
New
this?
Haven, Connecticut.
You've been born and bred in New Haven the whole time. So you were
Yes.
trying to act from New Haven, or did you go to the city?
So when I was a kid, I started when I was 8, and my mom was my manager. So for 10 years, she and I would drive back and forth to the city for commercial auditions, theater auditions, and I did over 40 national commercials. The first play that Steve Martin staged off Broadway. I played him as a child and got to work with Steve, and that was a crazy experience.
Very cool.
And I was like 14 years old. I mean, so it's just like this whole other world. And
Did you have
and then
white hair as a child to play the child Steve Martin?
I was a wild and crazy guy,
That's
know.
why with the arrow in the head as like a 7-year-old, right?
Yep. Did you guys ever listen to his old stand-up of Let's Get Small? Did you ever hear that?
Was this back in the 70s? Like his like
Yeah,
70s thing with
yeah.
It's been a while.
Oh man. Oh, what a fantastic comedian. But
So
I was born and raised in New Haven, and then my parents moved to Westport, Connecticut, and I went to school in New York, went to college in New York, and then moved back to Connecticut after I graduated. Moved to Los Angeles. I was in Los Angeles for 8 years, playing music, touring, doing yoga, tripping out at Esalen and whatnot. And then moved back here in 2014, and that's when I really started actively pursuing yoga as like the full-time thing.
Give me the time frame in LA and where you lived.
2006 till about 2014, I was in LA.
Where'd you live?
I lived a lot of different places. I lived in Burbank. I lived in Highland Park. I lived in East Hollywood, over like Melrose, close to like Melrose, closer to Silver Lake.
Yeah.
Why, were you there?
So from 94 to 2008, basically I was in LA, musician, actor,
Really?
commercials, soaps, TV, film, did the whole thing, dude. And
There
I
I
got hit by the yoga bug in 95.
Yep.
Over on Larchmont at Center for Yoga.
Uh-huh.
And then that carried me through till I got back here and moved back in 2009 and started teaching 5 years ago. But
wow.
But I know you're just describing auditions and stuff, and I listen to other podcasts on this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What a life that was, another 17 lifetimes ago, right?
Yeah. If you don't know, like it's such a grind, and the to have any kind of like consistency or sense of self, especially at such a young age, like even for adults that do it, it's really difficult. But for a child, you're walking into a room full of strangers, and it's like name, age, and then some other random question about like something that you like, or some your favorite activity, and you're just trying to please these people. You don't know what they like. You don't know. You just got the words for the commercial. It could be like, Duncan Hines cake or like McDonald's, and they just hand you a script if you're lucky. And that's pretty much it. And it's sink or swim. And the other people that you're auditioning with are standing right there next to you. So you get to watch all them audition and see all their stuff and comparing yourself right away to just everyone. And then every
that's
day.
It's really healthy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect. It's just ideal for children.
Funny. I don't know if yoga, because I really sort of hit my stride in my practice in like 2006. I practiced on and off for a bunch, but then like 2006, I really kind of jumped in. And I don't know if it was, now I'd already put in 12 years in the industry or what, but I think it was the yoga. I would lay there in Shavasana thinking how great I felt, right, after class. And then my mind would start going to, how long are you going to keep bashing your head against the wall doing this other thing? You know, and being out here and all that kind of stuff. Like maybe there's another way, and maybe this thing that you're doing right now in this studio is the way. It took me another fucking 10 years to get there, or more. But yeah, I mean, it's a grind, and yoga can be that thing for any field that you choose, right? Because you start tapping in and feeling different about things, and you go, wait a minute.
You know, yoga, I think that people, you know, they set up this sort of very linear track for themselves. And, you know, they don't take a lot of time, like you're saying, to really reflect and develop some insight about the person that they've become and the choices that they've made. And, you know, there's the physical aspects of yoga, which are awesome. And they're essential. I used to think that they weren't, you know, that was like a lesser form of yoga. But now I have placed so much emphasis on the physical, and this idea that if you're not giving yourself the time to put yourself in uncomfortable situations in a controlled environment, you're not really learning about who you are as a person now. And the choices that you're making now, are those really the choices that you want to make? And it's okay if they're not, you know, that you could choose differently, but like what drives you to make the choices that you make, and how do you respond when you get uncomfortable? And, you know, it also, like, is that who you are? You know, it's big questions, and a lot of people just don't take the time to answer them. And unfortunately, our society doesn't really encourage people to take the time to look at these things. They just try to commoditize everything and tell people that, you know, there's a pill for this, or there's a drink for that, or there's a new shirt for this, there's a new car or a new phone for that. Like everything is material. And that is not at all who we are. But most people don't ever get to know that.
That is correct.
So there's lots to go into, but before we go any further, I got to tell you, Esalen.
Yeah.
What was your experience? I'm dying to get out there someday. I'm sure Larry and I will.
Yeah.
Tell
this
our
is one of my
wives
favorite subjects.
We're going to go to the grocery store, and literally Larry and I just meet on 684. And we just drive to Esalen. And we're pretty sure our wives are not listening, so we're not too worried about the plan getting blown up. So tell us, what was your experience there? What were you expecting, and what did you get out of Esalen? Because it sounds freaking awesome.
Esalen is the most magical place on earth. I was delivering flowers at the time for this guy in Silver Lake, and I was on a break from the band that I was playing drums with. And my parents have this friend who's a doctor, and you know, he just knows a lot of people. He's like really into theater and whatnot. And go ahead.
Sorry, dude. That's such a fucking precursor to an LA story. I was
such an LA
delivering
story.
flowers for this guy while I was on break from my band, and I ended up at Esalen. That's the best.
And I had the best macchiato on the way up there. It was phenomenal.
Intelligentsia. It was perfect. Yeah.
And that's when I started my script. You know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to.
Oh yeah, of course. So this family friend, he has a friend who owns a consulting company, and this guy's a published author, theater director, lives in Marin County, and every summer he leads a month-long workshop at Esalen. And he lost his assistant. He needs to have a workshop assistant for the whole month to help kind of wrangle the group and be an example, you know. So our family friend recommended that I talk with him, and he really wasn't offering much money. I think it was like $200 or something for the month, but I would get to stay there for free. I would get to eat for free, and I would get to experience everything that is Esalen. And so I thought about it, and I was like, well, when I looked the guy up, he had lived in a Zen monastery for a little while and was practicing as like a Zen monk, and had started his own Fortune 100 company where they go out and they consult with people on public speaking and helping them to give better presentations. So I was like, maybe I could work my way into working for this guy, and I could get like a bigger gig out of it, and always thinking
So
about money.
LA. By the way,
Yeah,
so
so
LA.
LA.
Like,
So
I could
LA.
make- I could
gonna
make
be this guy's kind of personal
$250.
assistant and doing stuff and go to all these cool places.
Totally. And so I agreed, and I went, and it was wild. I mean, it's a difficult thing to describe to people, but there's I think that the thing about Esalen that's so unique is that there are practicing Gestalt therapists that live on or near the campus, and there's open seat therapy sessions that happen every day. And all of the teams that are working there's a kitchen staff, there's a laundry staff, there's a ground staff. Everyone that's on staff has these meetings, I guess you could say, with therapists that come in and work with all of the teams to work through whatever personal stuff is happening. And Gestalt therapy is unique to Esalen. So when you're working and you're there, you're in the practice of mindfulness and meditation and teamwork and feelings all the time. And there's 24-hour naked hot springs that are just there all the time. You could jump right in the Pacific Ocean anytime you want to. There's always people that are at some workshop that are diving into new concepts, and they're from all over the world, and they just want to sit and talk with you and discover, who are you and what are you into, and what's your
Everyone's
thing?
on some journey. They're like, where are you?
Totally.
What level of the game are you on? Let me ask, for those who are listening who may not know what Esalen is, Josh, how would you describe it, what it is? I mean, it was sort of the first of its kind, right, in the U.S.?
Yeah. Esalen was the epicenter for what was called the human potential movement. Mm-hmm. And it was started by two guys, Michael Murphy and Dick Price. And they wanted to create a place where people could go and explore the limits of their own mind and body. And Hunter S. Thompson, used to stay there. The Beatles would go there. Mm-hmm. The drummer Olatunji, all the people back in the 70s, they would go in the 60s and the 70s. They would hang out at Esalen, and they would have people come in and give these workshops, and that's basically how it is now. So you can go and you can stay. Either you can get a day pass, which is just sort of being on the grounds, but you can't really participate in any of the workshops. And then there are weekend-long workshops, week-long workshops, month-long workshops, and then you can also apply to be an extended stay, or an ES, and that's anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Wow.
And there's different departments that you can go and you can work in for these month-long workshops, where you basically are assigned a department, and you make a little bit of money, and then you're part of a workshop that has a theme. So our theme was viewpoints, right? So viewpoints is a particular type of acting and improv school, a method. And that's what this guy was teaching for a month. And so these people came from all over the country and all over the world to stay at Esalen, do people's laundry, and cook their food, and then do viewpoints and get Gestalt therapy, basically. And there's just nothing like it. Partly because it's right on the edge of the a cliff at the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like you were saying, Larry, like everyone is there immersed, they're all, looking for the next, new thing. They want to get into it. They want to discover, what's the meaning of life, the meaning of themselves. There's like a little hut that they built into the rocks and the side of a waterfall that's just a Zen meditation hut. There's no phones, there's no books, there's no nothing except going in and meditating. And they're strict about all these rules. Like it's awesome.
It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's incredible.
We could spend the whole podcast, this whole episode, just talking about Esalen.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sounds like it sounds like obviously the West Coast Kripalu, except on acid.
10 times Kripalu.
It's like no New Yorker is going to walk into that thing, and be like, "This is great." Right?
Kripalu doesn't hold a candle to this because of the sheer amount of openness,
right?
And the dynamics of how many people come and share their offerings, from the Enneagram and channeling to painting and dancing and gardening and understanding Native American cultures and psychic affirmations. I mean, it all goes through Esalen.
Yeah. I will say Kripalu is pretty cool in what it does. And for people who just want maybe a first level experience to doing a retreat or workshop. But Esalen sounds like, just totally on its own for the level of immersion in this stuff and the attitude and feelings when people are there. I mean, obviously I've never been, but I know at Kripalu, there is a little bit of walking the halls, a little bit like, are they from Boston? They're from New York, like there's a little bit of people kind of keeping a little closed off. And I think that's cultural to the Northeast, and the fact that, Kripalu is really good about being an entry point for a lot of workshops and things for people.
Yeah.
I think also the West Coast, like you can't dismiss the vibe of the West Coast. I mean, I remember being out there, and I'm sure you felt it too. Like you're kind of at the edge of the world, and all you see is potential out on the ocean, right? Constantly. And it's just like, it just still has that Wild West thing. Whereas like, if you orientate yourself on the East Coast, like you're looking back, it's true. It's a whole different vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. And
a
lot of people,
Don Draper really got a lot out of it.
I was going to bring up Don Draper, I was going to bring him up. That was, as soon as I saw that shot, I was like, that motherfucker's an Esalen.
Yep.
Anyway.
To bring it back a little bit, like, what did Esalen do for you on your path with yoga? Like, and when you came back East, what about the Esalen experience and the West Coast experience that really, that you integrate into your practice and your experience as you get back to kind of, familiar New Haven and Connecticut?
It normalizes spiritual life. I think that's what the West Coast and especially Esalen does, is it normalizes being in and on your spiritual path, day to day, moment by moment. There's no more breaks. There's no more, there's no more cheat days, really. And like, maybe that's just like a symptom of like my own personality. And that's just what it did for me. But there's a lot of dudes on the West Coast that are doing yoga. And there's a lot of dudes that are at Esalen that are, opening up and talking about their feelings and exploring new ways of being and the whole, masculine archetype. It really got expanded for me, from doing that. And I felt like coming back here, the fact that my family didn't get to experience a lot of that and they're still, kind of doing what they're doing. I felt like it was important to bring that back and kind of share this, to be seen, as a man living a spiritual life and choosing to, walk a spiritual path, so much so that I don't want to be involved in anything in my life that isn't going to be conscious in some way. Because once you see people living like that and being so open and so free and not scared of being who they are, like because their job is a certain way or their relationship is a certain way, it's like, it's very hard to go back. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's how I would answer that question.
When's the last time you were there?
2015, I went back
Okay.
to make actually to teach. So I was the only guy facilitator for a women's empowerment workshop. And one of the women that had taken one of the month-long workshops with me, she and I developed a friendship, and she had her own consulting business, and she really liked what I did, like in terms of like incorporating music and movement and yoga into like leadership skills and like practical leadership tools. And so she invited me to come down and present. And the weekend was a mess because the main facilitator dropped out. So my friend ended up having to step up and take the lead, which she was not prepared for. So I ended up walking into a room full of people who were a little bit like disappointed that they had come all this way, and this is what they were getting, you know. So, but it was cool. It was
That's
really
an exercise in yoga right there.
mm-hmm.
Your practice starts right now.
Right now. Right. Yeah.
So, Larry and I talk about this pretty often, which is there's something, and why we think more guys should get into yoga. It's not just kind of like taking care of bad backs or, tight hips and guys who are just not moving enough or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I also think just the community of guys who are into yoga now is a lot different than it was 20 years ago. And that's not a judgment, just an observation.
No, you're right.
And there are kind of guys who can be an asshole no matter where they are, even a yoga studio. But for the most part, most guys who do yoga or have a yoga practice, generally easier guys to be around. And some of them have probably just been through their stuff and had done a lot of work, and they've just changed their attitude about things. Others just might be kind of feeling the effects of doing yoga and having a practice, even if they haven't even got into the philosophical stuff. I was curious though if that's something that you see as well as you've been on the West Coast and the East Coast, the types of guys that you see getting into yoga and maybe the type of even unspoken kind of community or ethos that comes in the guys, community in yoga.
Yeah, I think it's important for guys to know, not to believe, but to know that yoga was really only meant for men initially. And the reason why is explained in the Gita with Arjuna being a warrior. And this change that we see in men and like the archetype of the man. I think that we have gotten away from that like warrior mindset as men. We don't have to hunt. We don't have to protect from invaders. We don't have to do a lot of these things that, the civilization kind of takes care of now for us. The civilized man is not really so much warrior inclined, but that is really what the yoga is designed for, because you have to, as a warrior, you have to make peace with life and death. And there's no time for doubt on the battlefield. And yet that's exactly what Arjuna faces. Arjuna faces a monstrous moment of doubt. And even though he knows that he can do what he's there to do as like the greatest archer on the planet, and he was supposed to be the inheritor of the planetary kingdom. Like he's like, I don't even know if I can do this right now. I don't know if I can kill my family and kill all my friends. Because then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and ultimately I'm supposed to be setting an example. And so inside of that story, men get all of these little nuggets and these little hints. Like you want to have a warrior mindset. And with a warrior mindset, you want to make peace with death. Because in that way, then you can start really making authentic choices, and you're living life on your own terms, even if you have to fight for it. It's worth it to fight for it. And you're supposed to, in a way, fight for the things that you want or fight for the things that you need to protect. And I think that the New Age man, the New Age spiritual man, kind of ruined that. He took that and granolified it and put all of this spiritual kind of sensitive language into it. And now when a man steps into that Arjuna, like Bhima warrior mindset of like, no, there are rules, there are regulations, there are boundaries, and it's not negotiable. People are like, oh, it's toxic. That is like so dangerous as a man for you to say that. You're so uninvolved. Like, don't you practice yoga? You should be. You know how many people say this to me? I can't believe, as a yoga teacher, this is how you're talking right now. This attitude. It's like, I'm a man. What do you expect? Like, just because I teach yoga? A man from New Haven. You think I don't have feelings? Like, I don't have. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You know. So, and that's like the thing is like, it leads into another thing. Like, the expectations of people who do yoga is that they're supposed to be docile, they're supposed to be peaceful, they're supposed to be very agreeable and very sensitive and knowledgeable. And you don't have to be that to do yoga. You can be rough and sour, and you can be unflexible, and you can be a little bit messy, and the yoga is still going to work. It's just going to show you that you're all of those things. And then you can ask yourself, do I still want to be that, or do I want to work on it?
Yeah.
You don't have to. You can take as many lifetimes as you want to work on all that stuff. And that's the beauty of being a human. You're just going to keep doing this over and over until you learn your lessons. And, you know,
yeah, I think it's so true what you said. I think there's there's a masculinity in having a yoga practice. It's not, the alpha masculinity of trying to own the room or be the big dog or just try to, instill fear in your enemies. It's kind of a deep sense of knowing who you are or where you are and not having really any fear. And it's sort of a little bit, like I've said this phrase before, it's like learning to be a little bit more beta in your alpha, not worrying about any threats or competition. And it's interesting. I'm reading a book by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche right now called Shambhala, the Sacred Path of the Warrior. And it's all about compassion, and it's all about like goodness and having an Eastern view of things. And not only for yourself, but also doing that for yourself and doing that for other people and trying to bring the goodness out of other people. And he puts it in the light of warriorship, of learning to become that way and kind of learning to protect that mindset in a way that serves others. And I think that's a real component of what I think yoga can do for guys is making them into kind of a noble warrior in a certain way.
Absolutely. And, service and bhakti and, the developing an understanding of what yoga is, how expansive it is, and how many different ways there are to bridge yourself into yoga. There's yogas that don't involve any poses at all. It's just visualization and it's just breathing. There are yogas that, you can do these kriyas where you just practice a certain mantra and you're just doing japa mantras for X number of years. There are certain yogis where their whole thing, their tapas is to just hold their arm up, and they hold their arm up for 12 years. And they just do that as a yoga. So in that way, like for us as guys, like, we need goals, we need tasks, and we need things to sort of be like linear in a way. Like if it's too esoteric or it's too kind of abstract, like our minds, like they don't really like connect to it, So I think that like having a goal, and having like a type of outcome that you're working towards within the yoga practice as a man, as anyone, but as a man is really important. And that can be really helpful at first. It's like, what are you trying to get out of this? Like, Do you want to fix your back? Okay, great. But do you also maybe want to learn how to do a headstand? Do you want to learn how to balance better on one leg? Do you want to, learn how to develop psychic abilities? Do you want to learn how to make yourself invisible? Like, the practice offers all of these things, literally. And it really just depends on how far you want to take it, how much you want to invest. And I think that's great for any man. The fact that you can take the reins on a practice and run with it, and it can give you physical benefits, it can give you psychological and emotional benefits, and it taps you into a whole other realm of existence that you get to have a personal connection with, a personal relationship with. That's huge. And not a lot of
Yeah.
other things offer that.
So we know you're into Bhakti Yoga. Tell us a little bit of what Bhakti Yoga is for the audience. And then also, what do you appreciate about having Bhakti Yoga a deep part of your life?
Well, I got into Bhakti because of my teacher, Raghunath, who you guys had on your show. And that's actually how I heard about you guys, was because of Raghu. And Raghu, he's really like to me, like the champion of Bhakti Yoga, like in our modern day. I know that there's a lot of other, gurus and swamis and whatever, but for me, he really like encapsulates Bhakti, and just in the way that he lives his life, and how he raises his family, and all of his music is geared towards spirituality and Bhakti, and helping to bring people into the Gita, and meeting him in person for the first time. I really saw how uncompromising he was in his beliefs. And that's, I think, the thing that I respect the most about him is that he's very much a Westerner, and he's like the poster child for punk rock in the 80s, really, like literally. But he's made it his mission and his life's purpose to help people find their way into Krishna consciousness. And I just have like that level of authenticity as a man and as a yoga teacher. I have so much respect for it, because you're really putting yourself in a vulnerable position when you do that, in my opinion. And he owns it, he lives by it, and he changes people's lives. And not everyone agrees with the way that he does it, but for all the teachers that are out there, Raghu has managed to maintain a near spotless image. He doesn't have drama in his life, personal drama. He doesn't get accusations made at him. He's not running around having weird relationships with students, and he's the real deal. Like he lived in the monasteries and he memorized the Gita. He has a library in his house of like all types of sacred literature that goes everything from Bhakti and Shiva and Krishna and all the deities, and just like hundreds of ancient texts. So that, like, knowing him and studying with him, that really brought me into Bhakti and helped me understand what Bhakti is. So Bhakti is devotion to something that is greater than yourself. And this is supposed to be the fruition of your yoga practice. And you start by learning to concentrate. And then after you learn to concentrate, you develop knowledge of the absolute truth. So learning to know the difference between things that are temporary, which would be pleasures, and then things that are eternal, which bring joy. And once you can concentrate and you can understand the difference between something temporary and something eternal, what you realize is you have been making a lot of choices and taking action in this world based on mostly temporary circumstances, usually. If you're highly enlightened and you're highly evolved, maybe you're just tapped into the eternal right away. But for most of us, it takes some time to realize, like, wow, like I've been putting my happiness into things that are not bringing it back to me, and I keep going through the same cycles. So I'm going to have to modify something about the way that I'm living. And that is karma. And that's karma yoga, where you modify your actions. And once you can get to that place where you modify your actions and you start acting in alignment with the person that you want to be, you start to feel so good about living your life, that goodness, you just want to seek that goodness, and you want to keep chasing the eternal and keep helping others and being part of anything that feels good and related to a higher purpose and a higher cause. And that desire for goodness, that desire to help others feel good, that's bhakti.
Very cool.
Bam.
Well said, by the way. Larry.
Yes.
I learned all that from Raghunath, by the way. That is like anything that I know about bhakti, I'm only trying to follow in my teacher's footsteps. And that's with even with being on this podcast. Ever since I met him and I took him as a teacher, I said, this guy knows what he's doing. And I know that I could sit here and I could try to like ego my way through this, but like I just want to make my teacher happy, and I want him to know how much I appreciate and like respect him. And I just want everyone to know how great he is, because he is, and I just wouldn't. I love to study. I love to learn. I'm very passionate about, all this stuff. And I lived a whole life, with the Esalen thing and everything in California and music before I knew Raghu. But when I was 13 years old, the first hardcore show that I ever went to at the Tune-In in New Haven, Connecticut was Raghu's band Shelter with another band called Earth Crisis. And I walked out of there with Raghu's CD and was listening to his music at 13 years old, not knowing anything about what was going on. I only heard the term Hare Krishna because of him. And so fast forward, 20 years, and I'm at Wanderlust, and I walk into a big tent with this guy with a weird name who's doing inversions. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll just check it out. And I'm taking the class and I'm going through and I'm listening to him talk. I'm like, man, this guy is amazing. Like, he should be in a band, or he should be like a speaker or something. And I reached out to him afterwards after I looked him up and I realized who it was. And I sent him an email just saying how much I appreciated him and how much his music had touched me and how grateful I was to be in his class that day. And he wrote back to me and he said thank you and that he appreciated it. And I could not believe it. So I made sure to sign up for his newsletter and followed his website. And the moment he had a teacher training that showed up that I could afford, I jumped in, and that's how I got my first official teacher training in 2018. All came full circle. So
that's
really cool.
That's
a
awesome.
killer story.
That is a killer story.
How often do you visit with Raghu, and how do you actually get a chance to see him? I mean, he's not far away, so
Yeah. Yep. He and I talk when we can. He's very busy, and I really I try not to bother him with a lot of things, because there are so many people around him that he's taking care of. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is something that's kind of, it's reminded me of something that I wanted to say to guys out there that are listening, which is that you don't have to find a guru per se in your yoga practice. I think it is essential that you find a teacher and a studio that you can really feel comfortable with and connect with. And you guys probably feel, exactly the same way. And like, I'm sure once you get comfortable with it, you find a lot of different teachers that you can connect with and a lot of different studios where, that's your community, that's your vibe. You can walk in, you set your stuff up, you feel comfortable. And you should really trust your gut that if you walk into a place and you don't feel that, that's totally fine. But don't associate all of yoga and the whole experience of yoga with just that one place. Like, go to another place, try another teacher, go, check out some of Trungpa's books and go buy a copy of the Gita and start doing some of your own, research. And eventually you're going to find a place where you walk in and the lighting is right and the people are cool and the teacher talks in a way that feels relatable and knows how to cue you and knows how to really take care of you. And then you're going to experience for yourself what yoga is like through that person, in the way that I experienced bhakti through Raghunath. And there's no other way to get it unless it's transmitted from the teacher to the student. And I don't know, there's a magic in there you just can't describe to someone. They have to experience it.
Were you knew about Bhakti Yoga prior to meeting him? Yeah. But was it not
I had
really
heard a
your
little
thing?
bit. I had heard a little bit about Bhakti, but nobody ever explained and showed me what Bhakti was in their life and their actions.
Yeah.
I just thought Hare Krishnas and like Bhakti yogis, like I didn't know that the two of them kind of coincided in the
Mm-hmm.
West.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this stereotype about the Western monk, the Western Hare Krishna Bhakti monk, as like completely detached from reality,
Right.
and someone that you would just not want to be associated with. In fact, I had a friend in college who, after our freshman year, he disappeared. He had a little bit of a break, in like a mental break, and he disappeared for a while. And his family discovered a few months later that he had moved into one of the Hare Krishna temples in New York City and had converted into Krishna consciousness, and that's what his life was. And we were all like, "Oh man, like I'm so sorry to hear that. This is awful. You lost your son. He's been taken by this, brainwashed by this cult." And then, fast forward to sitting in, Sangha at 5 a.m. with Raghu. And I'm like, dang, I didn't know anything. Like, I had no idea. But it is, when you get that far into it, it does get a little culty. It does get a little bit touch and go about like, they it becomes a religion basically.
Right.
It does become a religion like any other religion is. As you see Orthodox Jews, and they dress a certain way, they talk a certain way, they send their kids to certain schools, they don't listen to certain music, they don't read certain books. Like Hare Krishna is very much the same way when you take it to that place. But what's nice about Bhakti is that you don't have to be immersed in the religion of Bhakti Yoga to implement the principles. And really, what Krishna says is that these principles and these precepts of Bhakti Yoga are not optional for the human. They're required for the human, because unless the human practices to achieve the goal of Bhakti Yoga, the human will have no idea who he is and why he matters. And you
Wow.
must know that in order to evolve spiritually and to reach your true potential as a human. We're not supposed to be just wandering around surviving. We're not supposed to be scrapping. And we're not supposed to be resentful towards civilization and society and women and relationships and children, Like we're supposed to be contributing. We're supposed to be doing this like in a certain way, but we have to evolve.
So here's what I want to know. And here's what I'd
Sure.
love for you to sort of take us through and take some of the guys through.
This is a great conversation, by the way, you guys. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Right
Thank
back,
you.
right back at you.
Yeah, right back
Back
at you.
at ya.
What I want to know is for you to relay to us in a way that feels comfortable for you. So what does that look like in Josh Kane's life on a day-to-day basis? Right? What does
Bhakti?
that look like living your life as a Bhakti Yoga practitioner, right? Which a lot of the stuff you just said might already have freaked a lot of dudes out as we sat here waxing on about this fucking planet called Esalen. We might have lost some people. So just bring it back on, right, on a day-to-day basis, right? You order something in a restaurant and it comes, it's the wrong order, right? Or someone cuts you off on the street, or like whatever. You have a bad fight with your partner. Like, what does it look like to live in the way that you want to live?
Yeah. It's a simple thing, but it's very difficult to do, which is, and somebody said this to me a long time ago, and it might have even been at Esalen, but there's only one of us here. The idea that you are separate from me and I'm separate from you is part of this temporary illusion that lives in, knowledge of the absolute truth, or Gyan Yoga is what that's called. And when I start to understand, and this is what namaste is too, this is why we always say namaste, which is that the consciousness in me is the same consciousness that's in you. The moment I differentiate myself from you because of the physical covering, I am in illusion. So day to day, moment by moment, as things come up, happy things, sad things, it's all the same. I have to constantly remind myself, all of this is me and I am this. And it's all encased within a greater mind. You can call it God if you want, you can call it source, like if you're into the Krishna consciousness movement, you're going to call it Krishna. But it could be Allah, it could be Jah, it could be Jesus, Yahweh, whatever that is for you. That being or that force is a loving, kind being. It wants the best for you. Otherwise, there would be no reason to create. So we're not born to suffer. So if I'm experiencing suffering, let's say in my relationship, and my girlfriend is just driving me out of my mind, which happens,
Yep.
I have to look at her and I have to go, this is God in front of me. This is source in front of me in a female body, and she loves me. It's, if any part of my mind that believes that this isn't love is an illusion. And it's not romantic love. That's like, yes, we have a romantic relationship and we have that connection, but the love of the right to existence, like you exist, you matter. It, and I can't take away someone else's perspective, someone else's feelings, their ideas about what's occurring in this situation or in this conflict that she and I are having. That's hers, and what's mine is mine. And the yoga of that conflict within the relationship is, how can I be authentic about how I'm feeling? Hopefully leave space for her to be authentic. But even if she's not, it doesn't matter to me. That's not my concern. My only concern is that I be kind and authentic and tolerant and try to remember that anything that I'm experiencing in this is a lesson for me. It's making me a better person. There's something good inside of this that I can harvest. And even though, as annoying as it might be, as much as I don't want this to be fucking happening right now, because I think it could be so much easier if you only understood, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I gotta just reel it back in. You know what I mean? It doesn't work.
It's right. It's like, it's like a Rajastic moment in your experience.
Yeah, Rajasic moment. Yeah.
Rajastic, right. And, also it's a way of like, listen, every challenge or suffering in life, it's hard to see this when you were truly feeling the pain and the emotion or whatever the experience you're going through. But like, there's an opportunity to try to spiritualize it in some way that makes it genuine and authentic and related to the path that you're on. It's just
and even for guys out there who don't like the term spiritual, you could replace that word spiritual with, there's something that you can learn from this.
Yes. You can make it a utility. Like you can make it actually like it, just like how I think you were saying earlier, like, yoga is a utility for helping me solve my, deal with my back. Yoga is a utility for X, Y, and Z. There is another level of getting into this stuff where it's not a utility to be, controlled. It's more of just a way of being what you already are and everything around you.
Right. And in that kind of flow state, when you can contact your authentic self, you start choosing as that authentic self. All kinds of things start to happen in your life of, synchronicities and very, very magical things that now get kind of coined as like manifestation or, all that stuff. All of that comes from yoga. It all originates from yoga. So even like a lot of there's a really great book that's called The Science of Getting Rich by a guy named Wallace D. Wattles. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this book, but it's like it's from like 1912 or something. And in the beginning of the book, what the author's preface says is that this book is for those who do not have time to go back and study the Eastern religions.
That's pretty wild.
So then this all comes from the monastic thought that all the universe is of one thinking substance, and that thinking mind can be imprinted upon. And so you are in direct relationship with the thinking mind of the universe, and all it requires is what he calls prayer, but the prayer is really the affirmation and the focus of a particular outcome. That's yoga.
Yep. Yeah, and that's you get out of the universe what you put into it. So just to overly and bluntly simplay. But
yeah,
I love it. Josh, dude, it's been great connecting.
Jesus, dude.
Larry's like, whoa, that was a serious microdose.
I feel like I just landed
Gandiva Yoga.
Yeah,
right
I just
there.
got back from Esalen right here.
I
just landed.
Larry's
at JFK,
wheels are just
and I'm
touching
like,
down.
What
He's
the
a little.
fuck?
He's
Hold
like in
on.
the Led Zeppelin. He's in the Led Zeppelin plane coming down
totally.
and touching down. Right.
Gandiva. Let's hear about Gandiva Yoga.
I would say.
Yeah.
Josh, tell us our listeners where you are and how to find you, and tell us a little bit about the mission of Gandiva.
So I'm in New Haven, Connecticut. I opened this studio 3 years ago. I started out of my house, and I have a small location now that's it's like 10 minutes away from Yale, basically. It's kind of a common thing. And Gandiva is I guess, how would I describe this? I feel like there's
you can just chant if that's easier, right?
No, so at Gandiva there's three core principles physically, which are flexibility, mobility, and stability. And so we're trying to get the human being to be more integrated and well-rounded on a physical level. And then taking these like the principles of Bhakti Yoga and studying the Gita. And trying to, as a community, really start living with gratitude and appreciation, throughout our everyday lives, and making the yoga practice not optional, but that this is now part of our lifestyle. And I've had all kinds of people that have come to the studio, and I'm really not opposed to teaching anybody. At all, and because I do think that everyone is supposed to be practicing this, and so I don't care about your political affiliations. I don't care about your gender identity or like your vaccine status or any of that stuff. Like none of that. This is a place that like is meant to be like a shelter away from all of that, where you can really just look at yourself personally and say, am I being the person that I really want to be? And if I don't have someone to believe in me that like I can be the person that I want to be, that I can live my dreams and create the life that I want for myself, like really in my heart, I need to have someone that like believes that I can. Someone like so like that's me. That's what I do. I try to help people believe that they can do what they want to do in life, and then I encourage them to do it and hold their hand through the whole process.
What does Gandiva mean?
Gandiva is the name of Arjuna's bow.
Oh, nice.
Shit.
Nice.
And with the metaphor of like the bow and arrow, archery is a very skilled practice, and you have to have a single point of focus that you're aiming for when you're shooting a bow and arrow. And so that's really what we're going for. We're going for precision and timing, and a level of mastery that hits its mark as
Yeah, I
often
love
as
it. And I
possible.
think Iyengar has an analogy. I think it's Iyengar who said, the body is the arrow, the asana is the bow, and the mind is the target.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that it might have been his teacher actually. It might have been Krishnamacharya that said
Krishnamacharya?
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Krishnamacharya is fantastic, but
He's wild.
it's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And
It's so listen, we have to wrap. This was phenomenal, Josh.
awesome.
We were thanks for being patient, scheduling over the
Absolutely.
summer. Larry was in Lake Como in Italy on his yacht, and so we had to work around some of this stuff. But
I know. Mine's at the shop right now.
He was in the south of France.
Ugh.
You know, he was at a Cannes festival. You know,
If
I
I
was
could
just
give
there
Josh,
last week. Just
if I
there
could
last
give-
week. Must have just
Right.
missed you.
I couldn't
Ships
make
in
it.
the night.
I had a short visit. I had a short visit.
I just want to give Josh a little business advice. You know, as I look over your schedule, you should think about hopping on the schedule to teach a little bit every once in a
I
while.
agree.
Wow. I mean, folks, go to the thing, and if you look at Wednesday and Thursday, this dude starts at 6 a.m. and goes until 8:15 at night. All you. There's 6 different classes on those days, and you teach all of them. All different styles. That's awesome.
That's phenomenal. That is a devoted teacher and studio owner, man.
And you got to check out the logo, and you got to start making some T-shirts.
Yeah, you
Derek
gotta
and I
get
want
the
the
merch
first
up.
2.
You're right.
Let's go.
Get the merch.
Thank
All
you,
right.
dude.
Until the next time.
Until next time. Hare Krishna. Namaste.
Thank you, Josh.
Namaste.